Mexico, Venezuela, these were the powerhouses of Latin American oil production, a source of wealth, prosperity, and competition. Now, Venezuela is in crisis.
It's a failed state, and you can see it in its oil production numbers.
And Mexico is too hard to invest in.
You started to see a lot of these steep declines starting to take form in Mexico.
Now it's up to the next generation of oil countries, Colombia, Guyana, Brazil, and Argentina, to transform Latin America into a production powerhouse.
The most rapid growth is going to be in Brazil.
We've been in Colombia almost 37 years. It's the most underexplored, underdeveloped country in all of South America.
The third region I think that kind of stands out when you look at Latin America is Guyana.
Vaca Muerta is the biggest opportunity that Argentina have.
It's no longer if do you want to be involved in Vaca Muerta. Now the sense is you want to be involved in the Vaca Muerta. You've got to be there because it's an important play for the future.
And if a new quartet of oil giants will emerge or be toppled once again by political strife, corruption, and social unrest. Welcome to our Bloomberg special, Oil's Next Big Boom. I'm Alix. Over the next half hour, I will take you deep inside the oil world in South America to find the best fields and opportunities for homegrown companies, international oil giants, and investors. Latin America has long held some of the greatest promise and the most uncertainty. We can see that playing out right now in Argentina, where the political situation is evolving rapidly and the rules for businesses are changing day to day. It is a hot spot in a region that has the potential to alter the dynamics of the oil market forever and help push the region into an age of prosperity.
The no-go is Venezuela. Venezuela is a failed state. It's getting worse, and it's going to be very difficult to bring it back in any volumes.
Dan Yergin is the oil guru, an economic historian, author, speaker, and vice chairman of IHS Markit. He's followed energy his entire life.
It's not only oil production, but it's the collapse of the whole economy, electricity, water, everything else.
So if Venezuela is the no-go, where's the go right now?
The go now is Argentina, it's Brazil, it's Colombia, and it's a new big surprise, Guyana.
This project, is incredibly cost competitive.
Over the past 4 years, there have been a dozen discoveries off the coast of Guyana, and Maria Cortez, Latin American Research Director at WoodMac, is positive.
It was really being developed on the lower end of the cost cycle, and so from that perspective, from both a scale, but from a cost competitive perspective, it's a really attractive project.
Qatar Petroleum recently entered into an agreement with Total, while Exxon is partnering with Hess. It's made 3 major discoveries in 2019, which hold almost 800 million barrels of oil equivalent. First production will hit mid-2020.
This is a country that really wasn't on the radar 10 years ago, and it wasn't really until 2015 with the Liza discovery that this country really became quite relevant in Latin America, but now actually on a global scheme as well.
We believe that Brazil has the potential to be one of the largest contributors for non-OPEC production in the next 10 years.
High hopes for Decio Odone, head of Brazil's oil regulator. And a big change for Brazil, which was producing only 2 million barrels of oil a day 6 years ago.
After 2016, the government took a series of measures to attract foreign investors to work on those reserves, and success was enormous.
Brazil is obviously in a bit of a league of its own when you look at the pre-salt and the kind of well productivity and potential that you're seeing there. I think long term it's going to play a pivotal role in the region and really kind of global scene.
$155 billion was pumped into the oil sector since 2009, and WoodMac thinks $140 billion could be put to work over the next decade.
And since those very deep offshore reserves in what we call the pre-salt play, they need a long period to be developed, 4, 5, 6 years, 7 years sometimes. We expect production to grow after 2022-23.
Petrobras, the state-owned oil company, says it now has pre-salt break-evens below 40, compared with 60 for new projects in the Gulf of Mexico and 70 for West African deep water.
That's incredibly attractive. It's really just a matter of the timing of when those barrels hit the market.
Brazil has a lot to prove. It's fallen short of production estimates for years because of declines in pre-existing fields and outages. These pre-salt fields have to pump faster than that oil is disappearing. Citi thinks Brazil can produce 3.1 million barrels of oil a day in 2020, which would be the largest production growth outside OPEC Plus and U.S. shale.
We will see a completely different industry in Brazil in the next decade.
Others are sticking with Colombia, like Vicky Holub, CEO of Occidental.
We have been there operating and producing since the early 80s, and so I'd say that through all that time we've always had the support of the Colombia government. It's right now still our highest margin oil production.
Colombia is a commercially attractive place for companies to invest, but I just think that the scale is not quite there. Exploration is really quite limited, and the country's struggled to replace reserves.
Want shale outside the U.S.? Some say your only stop should be Vaca Muerta in Argentina.
Just about all the major energy companies now in the Vaca Muerta, where they were kind of hanging back before, they're more confident about it now and saying this is a growth area and we've got to be there too.
Exxon's doubling down with a 5-year plan to extract the equivalent of 55,000 barrels of crude and gas a day from Argentina's shale basin.
For Exxon, going to development, that only project would mean something like $800 million per year.
I mean, $800 million a year for Exxon is peanuts. So what do you do to help get more peanuts?
Yeah, with 6 peanuts of that per year,
How do you get your 6 peanuts?
We can feed ourselves very, very well.
Chevron took the plunge into Vaca Muerta in 2013 and is spending a portion of its shale capex in the region.
Last year, investment in Vaca Muerta was more than $4 billion. And I say we have to be cautious. This is a country that suffered a lot of swings in the last 50 years.
How big will it get? How quickly will it happen? Will the infrastructure and the whole system you need to develop it and bring it along, can it be something that can come along as quickly as the shale in the United States?
Latin America has produced over 78 billion barrels of oil over the past 39 years, and there are still 133 billion barrels of oil left in the ground just waiting to be produced. Coming up next, shale's big hope outside the U.S., Argentina.
When it comes to Argentina, they don't fall in love just about wine. They fell in love with the rock that we have.